Hi guys, and wait, are we live? Let's just check. Let's just check before we go. Hi guys, and welcome to my channel, Football Canapes. In this video, as you probably will know, that let's just check. As you know, this in this video we'll be talking about the Premier League, which has reached the halfway mark after 19 games. Two games were played yesterday between Arsenal and West Ham, and we saw kind of upsets in both of them with uh, Arsenal losing 2-0 to West Ham at home could have been worse, with Said Ben Rama missing a penalty in added time in the at the end of the second half, and then we had of course Tottenham losing 4-2 away at Brighton, side that has been ravaged by injuries with Karo Mitoma, Solly March, some of these players out injured. Adam Webster is out as well. But Tottenham, for on their side, they have their own set of injuries as well. So, but they did lose, and the expectation or popular belief was that Tottenham will win against Brighton, but Brighton showed their mettle, and they did beat Tottenham Hotspur 4-2, and could have, to be honest, could have been quite. I mean, it could have been better for Brighton as well. In the end, they were hanging on, but anyways, so as you can see with the table besides me, most of the teams have played 19 games, and in this video we'll be looking at some of the stuff that has happened so far this season with all the stuff off the field, on the field, and which teams have done well, which teams haven't particularly done well, and as you can see with the table, Liverpool are sitting top of the table with 42 points from the 19 games. Arsenal could have gone top yesterday if they had beaten West Ham, but it wasn't to be. Aston Villa are the surprise side with 39 points from the 19 games, and if if uh, if they had been able to keep their lead against Manchester United. At one point of time, they were leading 2-0 against Manchester United. They, who knows, they they or even drawn the game. They could have been you know uh, they could have been second, and surprisingly so. Not since the early 1990s would they have been this high in the table, and remarkable to say, given that they were only promoted in what was it, 2019, I think it was, after spending 3 years in the championship, after they were relegated at the bottom. Well, they went down bottom in 2015-16 season, at the end of 2015-16 season, with I think around 16 points or something like that, and yeah, so Aston Villa are third, and Man City, who have a game in hand because they were involved in the Club World Cup. They are the world champions. They beat Everton in their last game, and and yes, so they are doing very well as well. I mean, some people might have thought that they would do better, but of course we have seen in the they tend to do better in the second half of the season. They are kind of slow starters to say the least, and uh, at the beginning of the season they did lose their talisman, Kevin De Bruyne, who's now back in the training, and and uh, yeah, should be back in the side soon. And also Erling Haaland has been missing as well in the recent games. And as per my information, what Pep was talking about in his press conference today, Erling Haaland won't be involved against Sheffield United. So big blow, but I guess the likes of Phil Foden, Julian Alvarez, Bernardo Silva, Jack Grealish, Jeremy Doku, and John Stones won't be involved either. Neither would Kevin De Bruyne be. So, so yeah, there's still a lot for Man City to be getting ready for. But this isn't about what comes next. It's about what has happened. And as I was saying, in the past VFC, in the first half of the season, we have seen some remarkable football, some not so good stuff, some ugly stuff, some managerial sacking. So in the next hour or so, I'll be talking about that stuff. I would encourage anyone who's watching and anyone who joins in to be active in the chat, and we'll discuss that in the next few minutes. And then of course, let's just go over the table once again. Aston Villa third, Man City fourth. Spurs are in fifth place. They could have gone into the top four, although they would have played a game more than Man City. Uh, but nevertheless, they could have gone into the top four. And West Ham, who are doing remarkably well, they topped their Europa League group, and now they are what, sixth. Man United, who have had a terrible season, we'll discuss about Manchester United as well. And and yeah, so they are seventh, as you can see. And just going over the table for starters, and then uh, who do we have? We have Brighton, who won yesterday, and Newcastle, my team, are basically struggling. A lot of teams are struggling with injuries, and so yeah, I guess every team is struggling to some extent. And then Chelsea, who spent a lot of money, they are propping up the top half of the table. Bottom half, Wolves doing tremendously well. Bournemouth, Fulham, Brentford, Crystal Palace, Nottingham Forest, who have sacked their manager, and Crystal Palace, Nottingham Forest, Everton, who have had a 10-point penalty. Uh, Remarkable to think that if there wasn't a 10-point penalty, they would be in the top half of the table, competing with the likes of Chelsea, etc. And who knows where Sean Dyche could have taken them. And then we have three promoted clubs who are propping up the table. So this season, where should we begin? I guess right at the very start, Man City and Liverpool, as expected, they spent good amount of money. Man City needed some players brought in after you know getting rid of a couple of players. They brought in Josko Guardiol from RB Leipzig. They have brought in Mateo Kovacic. They they did lose. I am failing to remember who did they lose. I'm sure they did lose players, and then we had. Then we had Liverpool, who were terrible last season because of the midfield issues that they had, and they brought in Alexis McAllister, Dominic Szoboszlai, etc. And basically they strengthened in the uh, in the midfield area. They also brought in Wataru Endo from Stuttgart. They also brought in Ryan Gravenberch from Bayern Munich. So quite uh, quite potent in midfield, where they did needed to strengthen, and yeah, so uh, they did anyways. So yep, these were the players that they did in, and of course Chelsea spent a lot of money as well. They spent a lot of money on Moises Caicedo, Romeo Lavia. They brought in Nicholas Jackson. Uh, Manchester United, they got rid of club legend David De Gea. They brought in Andre Onana. We'll talk about Andre Onana as well, what he has been doing, what he's been up to. Champions League, what Manchester United were expected to do and what they have done, and a lot more. But let's talk about Manchester City, defending champions, treble winners as well. They uh, they they I mean they've had a kind of a patchy kind of a start, not start, but patchy kind of season so far. Erling Haaland has been missing for not vast majority, but like in the last month or so, he's not been that regular. I don't know exactly the injury that he's been struggling with, but he hasn't been available in the last few games. As I said previously, that he missed the uh, the the Club World Cup, which some people aren't a big fan of, but it is a game that you get to play. It's a privilege, and yeah, so that's a big miss. I mean, like, even though he has missed a few chances, but he did so last season as well, and this season he's been banging the goals in as well, but he's been missing. And yes, talking about Manchester City, they haven't had, that silky smooth kind of stuff that they usually display with their performances, defeats against Arsenal, draws against Liverpool, Tottenham, Chelsea. Even though they scored a lot of goals in those games, but they did struggle in those games, defensively at least. Three goals against Spurs, four against Chelsea, losing a goal against Liverpool. Okay, fine, that's acceptable to some level, but it wasn't the best. So, but as I said, Kevin De Bruyne, Jeremy Doku, John Stones, these players are expected back uh, in uh, in um, in the next few weeks, and then we will see real Man City. I am hoping, then. And then I'm expecting that their form will pick up, and they will start their climb up the table with some buckling football that we usually see from there. Coming on to Liverpool, they it's not the Liverpool that we saw a couple of, or maybe 3 or 4 seasons ago in 2020, when they won the title, Sadio Mane, Mohamed Salah, and Roberto Firmino, playing breathtaking football. Liverpool had Gini Wijnaldum, Jordan Henderson, and Fabinho sitting in midfield doing tremendous stuff. So it's not the same, but it's was it expected that Liverpool would pick up and be back where they used to be? Perhaps wasn't, but it's better than what it was last season. But then you would expect that as well, because you have refreshed the midfield. You have brought in players. David Nunez, Luis Diaz have been signed in the last 12 or so months, and not 12 or so months, but like Cody Gakpo, etc. Diego Jota. Injuries have ravaged virtually every side, and so these things have affected most of the teams. And Liverpool, for now, they haven't been affected that badly. Yes, Andy Robertson has been out. Joel Matip, I think, has suffered a bad injury. Thiago Alcantara hasn't played. Stefan Bajcetic hasn't featured that well either. But yeah, so I guess the consensus is that Liverpool should improve in the next few games, or at least get better. And yeah, so that is expected out of Liverpool. And and Yeah, so uh, defensively, they have looked a bit suspect. They have suffered their fair share of bad decisions as well. We will um, perhaps touch base, or talk about we will talk about what happened with that Luis Diaz non-goal against Tottenham Hotspur. And then let's come on to Arsenal, who lost yesterday, as I was telling you, against West Ham. Um, Last year, people said if William Saliba injured, hadn't gotten injured, we perhaps would have seen you know, a lot better Arsenal, or a lot better title charge. And this year, with William Saliba, Declan Rice coming into the midfield, we would see, Arsenal doing a lot more. But as you can see by the table, from the table besides me, they are currently second. With 40 points from 19 games, and they could lose more games. A lot of their games they have won by the skin of their teeth. 4-3 against Luton. Manchester United, the game they won, it was right at the very end that Declan Rice scored, and then Gabriel Jesus finished it off. Who knows if fine margins had gone against them, Alejandro Garnacho's goal would have stood against Arsenal. And it could have gone against them against Chelsea. Chelsea, you know, made mistakes and Arsenal punished them, but Chelsea gave Arsenal the opportunity to come back. So my basic point is, what I'm trying to say is that Arsenal, for a side that were expected to do better, haven't looked that good. Granit Xhaka left, and Kai Havertz was expected to, be his replacement. Has he done as well as Granit Xhaka did last season? Perhaps not. Perhaps not. And I'm sure some of the Arsenal fans would agree with me that Kai Havertz need to pull up his socks. He was lucky to be not get sent off against Newcastle against for his terrible and I mean I have no shame in admitting that I am a Newcastle fan and biased on this uh, occasion. A horror challenge on Sean Longstaff, and Stuart Atwell should have sent him off. And Arsenal fans crow about that goal, Anthony Gordon goal. But if he had been sent off, who knows what might have happened in that game. Arsenal could have lost even heavily than by just a single goal. So yeah, so just basic point is that Arsenal haven't looked that good. Left back is a particularly problem area for Arsenal. Uh, Alexander Zinchenko keeps making mistakes, and these mistakes do keep getting punished as well. Uh, I think I don't remember. It was I think the Wolves game when he made a mistake, and it was I think who was it? I don't remember. Matthias Cunha who punished and Arsenal did win that game, but it it could have been worse. And yeah, so now let's talk about Manchester United, who have had a season that I don't know how to describe that season. The first game against Wolves, we could see it wasn't going to be smooth sailing for Manchester United. Wolves just walked all over Manchester United's midfield and were unlucky to lose to a Rafael Varane goal. Since then, in the last week or so, we have seen that the Glazers have indeed sold 25% stake in Manchester United to Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who's the richest owner, or not the richest owners, of course. Newcastle have the richest owners in the Premier League, and so. Uh, who's the richest person in England and what that entails, what happens in the transfer window. Of course, the deal still needs to be ratified by the Premier League, which could take another 2 or 3 weeks, maybe more, 4 or 5 weeks. We saw with Newcastle takeover how that was handled badly or well. We'll not go into that. And in Champions League, Manchester United finished bottom of their group, as did Newcastle, but Manchester United were in a far easier group with Bayern Munich, Galatasaray, and of course FC Copenhagen from Denmark. So yeah, and Manchester United should have done better, but their problem has been in midfield. They have won as many games as they have lost, so which is not something you expect of a team like Manchester United. So I mean, is Eric Ten Hag under pressure? Probably is. We have seen invariably that new owners, when they come in, they do try and bring in their guy. We saw with Roman Abramovich, he sacked Claudio Ranieri even after he finished second. We saw with Chelsea, they got rid of Thomas Tuchel. We saw with Newcastle in 2021, Steve Bruce was sacked, even though I do feel that Steve Bruce should have been sacked a lot earlier, but this video is not about that. And yeah, so that is one thing. Apart from that, we have other sides who have been doing well. The Brighton have been doing well. Bournemouth, they brought in a new manager, Andoni Iraola. He's been doing well of late. Wolves brought in Gary O'Neill after Julian Lopetegui left. They have been doing well. Now, sides who haven't been doing that well, we'll talk about. Chelsea spent, I don't know how much money they spent, but it was a ton of money. They spent money on Axel Disasi. They brought in Moises Caicedo. They have brought in Romeo Lavia. They brought in Nicholas Jackson. Who else they brought in? They brought in many other players. A lot of players were signed last season, and they brought came in this year. Like Malo Gusto, Ian Matson was on loan. So, I mean, to say that there's been a lot of flux. A lot of players have come in. A lot of players have left. Kai Havertz has left. Kepa Arrizabalaga has left. They brought in George Petrovic. I think he's come in this window only, and who else who else had left? I'm sure a lot of, I mean, it's that many I'm failing to recognize. Like, who else? Kai Havertz, I've already said. They've, I mean, I'm sure a lot of players that Chelsea sold, this season. Um, but apart from Havertz and who else was there? Aritza Balaga. None are springing to mind. But anyways, so Mauricio Pochettino came in. He has tried to bring in his style of play, but it so far for the money they have spent, I know it's difficult for manager to get all these players gelling together. Mudrik, Sterling, Cole Palmer was brought in as well. So I know it's difficult for managers to, having to have these players gelled in, but it it's been difficult, but some of the performances have been dire. I told you earlier, Manchester United have been poor, but Chelsea made them look like Barcelona of 2011 and 2012 when Pep side watch wash wiped the floor with the Manchester United at Wembley and won their UEFA Champions League title. So yeah, that's what's been happening at Chelsea. Not good enough. They should have been doing a lot better for the money they have spent, because that's what you'll be judged on. So Chelsea, some of the performances dire. They've lost to Nottingham Forest at home. Manchester United told you about. They lost to Brentford at home. But then again they drew 4-4 against Manchester City. It was one of the games of the season, and Manchester City Manchester City did allow Chelsea to play play well, but it yeah, they should have done better. But credit to Chelsea and credit where it's due to. Uh, Chelsea did well, but overall they have picked up. They beat Crystal Palace in the last game, and yeah, yeah, that's where Chelsea are. Let's talk about some of the games, some of the controversial moments that have happened so far. Let's talk about the biggest one of them all, Luis Diaz Luis Diaz's goal, which was, I mean, talk about, I don't know, controversy or whatever, but that was just absolutely diabolical from the VAR. I think it's fair to say we've all heard the uh, the we've all heard the uh, chat between the VAR officials, how it was handled and how it was, dealt with. So, yeah, so, and how it was dealt with. Not good enough. Jurgen Klopp wanted a replay. I mean, for a guy who doesn't stop, talking about, just doesn't shut up about how there are too many games, and now he all of a sudden he wants a replay just because his side lost to an own goal, Joel Matip own goal. He wants a replay. I mean, if we're talking about replay, then there are a lot of replay. I have full sympathy with Liverpool fans that in this day and age, that kind of stuff shouldn't happen. But I mean, either you take either you take the you embrace technology with whatever it brings or not, or you reject it outright. But anyways, I have full Liverpool fans and the club have my sympathy, but it just some of the take takes from Liverpool fans, staff, etc. was just unbearable, and and it was, I mean, comical in the end. We also had the controversy where Arsenal were playing Newcastle away at St James's Park, where there were three separate instances where the goal could have been disallowed, but it wasn't. And I'm a Newcastle fan. I may be biased, but rightly so. There was no evidence to suggest that the on-field decision should be overturned, and the goal stood. And Arsenal fans are still crying today that blah blah blah. We were robbed. We were robbed. And lo and behold, yesterday we saw a similar instance where a goal could, maybe some Arsenal fans would, argue that it should have been chalked off, but I mean, it wasn't. You get on with it, and yeah, so you move on now, and try to do better. It's not like uh, they were bringing the house down with some scintillating football. They were having pot shots from a distance, and Alphonse Areola wasn't troubled even earlier. They have struggled to beat sides. Uh, Wolves they just beat Chelsea against a struggling Chelsea side. They allowed Chelsea to go into a 2-0 lead, and then they came back to draw 2-2, but that was only after Chelsea allowed them with two mistakes, one from their right back Malo Gusto, and first one from Robert Sanchez with his terrible back pass. And Declan Rice scored a cracking goal, which I really enjoyed watching. But Arsenal, to be fair, they they haven't looked at the best. But yeah, controversy was there, but Arsenal didn't help didn't help themselves by releasing a statement which was another embarrassment. I mean, if you ask anybody, they'd say it was naive of Arsenal to release a statement like that following their loss. And Mikel Arteta was lucky, and I mean, like, it was just a loophole that prevented him from getting another match added on to his touchline ban. And well, fine. I don't think those bans are worth anything, to be honest. And yeah, so fine. disgrace, disgracia, whatever. And so these were two of the controversies. Let's talk about. I mean, there were. I'm sure there were others. There were other controversies that happened as well. I'm sure I missed out on a few, uh, some penalties here, there, everywhere. But that's the thing that we live with. Every club has, as they say, the things even themselves out, and and in the end, in the end, we are where we are. So yeah. Anyways, what else did I want to talk about? We've seen new managers come in. Let's talk about how those new managers have done so far. We have seen Ange Ball. Not a fan, to be honest. Not at all. Uh, I mean, it's like basically we'll do one thing and uh, come hell or high water, we are not going to budge. Suicidal tactics against Chelsea, playing a high line when you don't have defenders. Chelsea have play pace whole of second half. Just you're just inviting trouble basically. And even yesterday, even without defenders, you have to adjust. You just can't go gung-ho expecting or expecting every game to be won 4-3 by your attacking players. It could have been different yesterday if Tottenham had taken their chances, but then Brighton took theirs. It could have been worse. It could have been 6-0 at one point of time. And from Denny Welbeck, Vicario made a couple of good saves, and I mean, time will tell. It's only early. Christian Romero and Mickey Van de Ven both have been out, and yeah, in the initial months, it might have been refreshing, but uh, but uh, but I have to say that in the long run, Ange Ball, however you want to play, if you don't have the players, if the other teams have better players than yours, your team has, then in the long run you would struggle, and teams will work you out, and other managers aren't you know aren't chickens or dumb people. They will they will they will work out strategies to you know to play against you. And in the next 3 or 4 months, we will see Tottenham, as I said, are already out of one competition. They lost to Fulham, I think, in the Carabao Cup, and in the FA Cup, I don't know who they have, but if they keep playing like that, then all the best to them, because I don't know in the long run how it can work. Anyways, Mauricio Pochettino, he's come under some criticism from some of the Chelsea fans and some of the other people in the media. Um, is he as good as people make him out to be? He wasn't flavor of the month at PSG. He didn't do that well in the Champions League. People say everyone wins the the Liga with PSG, and so did uh, Pochettino. I think Lille won in his first year, but that was only the only the it was I think I think he only took over halfway through the season, and this season, I mean, it has gotten better, but To be honest, it couldn't get any worse. So, yeah. I guess, I guess it's it's there's you have to give him time. There are a lot of players there. There's, as I said, a lot of change has happened in the last 12 to 18 months, and it's not easy, not easy at all. But money has been spent, and one would expect uh, some return. Um, okay, fine. Time has been given so far, but how much more will be given remains to be seen, and and we'll wait and find out. But as I said, things have picked up. Chelsea won their game thanks to an 89th minute penalty by Noni Madueke against Crystal Palace. They have a good record against Crystal Palace as well, and they did well. But 10th is not good enough. So remains to be seen. Another manager who has done remarkably well, or two of them I'd like to point out. Uh, these two are Andoni Iraola, who replaced Gary O'Neill, and Gary O'Neill himself, who replaced Julian Lopetegui at Wolves. Both teams, I thought, I mean, won't. Wolves, I thought, would go down. But I thought Bournemouth would struggle. But both teams have picked up. Both are on 25 points, as you can see, and 11th and 12th in the table. Uh, have been playing some exciting football. Bulls beat Chelsea uh, about 6 or 7 days ago, and and Bournemouth, they played Manchester United off the park at Old Trafford, so there's quite a lot to be admired about both of these managers and how these two have gotten their sides playing such good football in terms of results. I don't know if you agree that they have been playing well or not, but football is a results industry, and that is what these two teams have been doing, getting results. 25 points, they could easily be in the top half of the table. It's just only the goal difference that's keeping them in the bottom half of the table. And uh, and uh, yeah, so uh, brilliant job by these two. Brentford again struggling with injuries. So these are the some of the new managers that have come in who have done remarkably well. Let's talk about some of the promoted teams. I guess we all expected, as you can see, all of these teams are in the relegation zone as things stand. Even Everton, who were handed a 10-point penalty, are above them on 16 points. Luton are on 15 points. They beat Sheffield United in the last game. Burnley are on 11 points. They lost to Liverpool, and Sheffield United, they lost to Luton at home in their last game. Yeah, I guess in terms of promoted sides, I expected Burnley to do well, but they look they don't look a Premier League side at all. They play far too open. If I have criticized Tottenham Hotspur, I am not going to leave Burnley. They for the quality of players that they have, they play far too open football, and it's so easy to play against. You can score easily against them. I mean, it's one thing. playing this kind of game in the championship, but another playing this type of game in the Premier League, where one mistake can lead to a goal basically seconds later, and that has happened with Burnley quite a lot. Yes, they might have been subjected to an odd bad decision or two, but more or less they haven't helped their cause. In terms of Luton and Sheffield United, I think we all agree that the quality of players that these two teams have aren't good enough. Luton, I mean, I have to say they have picked up recently. They have won the last two games. Pains me to say that they beat Newcastle United. They beat Newcastle United. It was a terrible performance from Newcastle, and they credit to Luton. They did beat Newcastle, and they went away at Bramall Lane and beat Sheffield United 3-2 as well. Got the job done. They are fighting for their manager, for their fans, and doing tremendously well against the odds. A lot of people talked about Luton and Sheffield United as two teams who would perhaps be worse than the Derby County side of 2007, who went down with just 11 points and were dreadful. But I think at halfway mark, it's safe to say that these two teams won't be that bad. How much better? I don't know, but at least for Luton, I can say much better. But but Sheffield United, I don't know how much better they will be, but all the best to them. Apart from when they play Newcastle, anyway. So, and yeah, talking of Sheffield United, managers sacked. We have had two this season. We've two this season. Sheffield United got rid of Paul Botham, who again under whom Sheffield United was struggling. Only one win, that was against Wolves. Wolves, I think, and then again they brought back Chris Wilder, who under whom Sheffield United did really well for a couple of seasons, one season at least. And then we have had Nottingham Forest who got rid of Steve Cooper. Yes, this season things didn't quite work out for Sheffield United, but for Nottingham Forest, but Steve Cooper did tremendously well at Nottingham Forest, picked up, um, joined when Nottingham Forest were in the relegation zone of the Championship, got them promoted after beating Huddersfield Town in the Championship playoff final, and kept them in the league. And this season, yeah, things haven't been that good, but fair to say, Nuno has come in and done reasonably well. Don't want to hop back on Newcastle, but they did beat Newcastle at St James's Park. But we move on, and all the best to all the sides. Some of the other stuff that I want to talk about was like injuries. There have been quite a few injuries this season. Uh, what do we attribute that to? I don't know. I don't know. A lot of added time has been played, a lot of muscle injuries, a lot of ACL injuries we saw in the first match day, first week. Tyron Minks got injured. We have Julian Timber got injured, ACL injury again. Rico Henry is out with an ACL. Um, I think even Perisic at Tottenham is out with an ACL as well. A lot of players are out with the ACL. A lot of injuries have been happening. That brings me down to Tom Lockyer, who collapsed on the pitch against Bournemouth uh, with a cardiac arrest. My sincere best wishes to Tom Lockyer. Hope he makes full recovery. And we've seen Christian Eriksen come back and do superbly for Brentford and now Manchester United. So Tom Lockyer, if I know you're not watching this, so all the best in your recovery. Hope to see you soon, and let's see. Uh, let's see you on the pitch as soon as possible. To be honest, and yeah. Um, so what else do you talk about? What happens next? I guess Champions League draw has been made. UEFA Cup, not UEFA Cup, UEFA Europa League draw has been made as well. 19 games remain. FA Cup begins in a week's time. Uh, for me, Manchester City with Erling Haaland, Kevin De Bruyne, Doku, John Stones, if they come back for bulk of these games, Manchester City will be favorites for the title, and and they will be favorites for the title. For top four, I'd say Liverpool, City, Arsenal, and Aston Villa. We haven't talked about. I'm sorry, Aston Villa fans. It just completely lost track of Aston Villa. Aston Villa, I think their home form would take them into top four, and they will, for me at least, at this point of time, I think they will finish in the top four of the Premier League and qualify for the Champions League. Of course, it doesn't help that Newcastle United and Manchester United both were knocked out of Europe altogether, uh, and that doesn't help the coefficient. Um, so, yeah, let's wait and see if teams like West Ham, Aston Villa, Liverpool can do. Arsenal, Manchester City in Champions League can do well. Who knows? Fifth place might be good enough, and then it's every team for themselves in the last for the fifth spot. Disappointed that Newcastle have had such a falling off after such a brilliant season last year. Uh, some of the better performances this season, I think you have to give credit to the likes of Douglas Lewis of Aston Villa, who's done well. Aston Villa in their home form, they look really really good. They haven't lost at home this season. Neither have Arsenal or Liverpool, but Aston Villa and Arsenal or Liverpool, and yeah, Erling Haaland, who's been missing for the last few games, still is the top scorer so far this season. Mohamed Salah, going into AFCON. Dominic Solanke, who's had 12 goals in the Premier League. He's had a remarkable season, and yeah, so I mean, there have been some really good performances. Some of the players, Matthias Nunes hasn't made the impact. Darwin Nunes still looks like can't hit a barn door with a banjo. Still misses a lot of chances. And Declan Rice, Moises Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, Mikhailo Mudryk, four players who, if you talk in terms of euros, cost more than 100 million. Declan Rice, you would say, has done okay because Arsenal as a team don't look to be firing on all cylinders, and and Mudrik, Caicedo, and Enzo Fernandez. Chelsea have already talked uh, about. They've talked about them. They they don't look good. Kai Havertz looks poor. Yes, he scored a couple of goals in the last few games, but doesn't look like the player that any team should be paying 60 million for. So I guess some these are some of the players who haven't done particularly well. Musa Diaby started off well, but has faded in the last few games, as has Dominic Szoboszlai. But both came from Bundesliga, where you have a winter break. The matches perhaps aren't as intense as these in the Premier League, and they have struggled a bit. So let's see if they do pick up or not, or let's before casting long-term judgment on their performances. And who else? For Manchester City, Jeremy Doku has done well. Who else? Who else? Who else? Let me just think about some of the biggest flops. I just forgot about the biggest of them all. Perhaps Andre Onana, who was brought in as a replacement for David De Gea and has been an absolute liability for Manchester United. Rasmus Højlund is still 20. He's just scored one Premier League goal, but has shown promise in the Champions League with 5 goals. So let's not cast judgment on Rasmus Højlund just yet. There's still time to go for him. Andre Onana, Mason Mount, Rasmus Højlund. I mean, yeah, I guess by all means give them time, but for now, from point A, which was the start of the season till now, they haven't been good enough, all three, for the purpose for which they were brought in. They haven't delivered, and we have to judge them on that. Not good enough, simply not good enough. Chelsea have talked about Nicholas Jackson, poor, poor, absolutely dreadful. Uh, Misses easy chances, gets yellow carded for fun. I mean, like not for fouls, but for dissent. So these are some of the things that some of the players that haven't done well. I guess I have to talk about Newcastle, not injuries aside, but every team has had injuries. Newcastle, in terms of results, not good enough. Simply not good enough, and have to do better in the second half of the season. In terms of merit marks, I have to say Aston Villa A plus for the team, for the club, and the performances that they have put in. Aston Villa get A plus. Liverpool after last season A. They've done well. Arsenal A, I guess. They are doing what they are, and Man City still to click into gear, but we know what they can do. Treble winners, won the Club World Cup, so I guess B plus for them. Manchester United B. Newcastle, I had to say C plus, not good enough. Chelsea D, or perhaps even an F. So these are some of the club ratings that I'd give. What else? Is there anything else that I'd like to talk about? I don't know, but second half of the season, I hope Newcastle do well. I'd like to see a good close title race. I don't. I have no horse in the race. I am okay with any team that wins, and would like to see Man City win. I like Pep, so uh, Just reading Arsenal fans' comments, I just don't want Arsenal to win. I mean, right, they have had their fair of injustices last season against Brentford. The lines were drawn wrong, but so as at every club, as a Newcastle fan, I can give you 10 such instances where referees have had a real nightmare where I mean, they didn't look like professional referees. And talking of referees, let's give credit to. I'm sorry if I have forgotten the name. The first black referee to referee in Premier League for 15, 16 years since Uriah Rennie, and then there was a lady referee as well. So congratulations to her as well. And yeah, as I said, it's been a season of some remarkable football, never a dull moment, and things keep on happening. Let's see in the second half of the season how Manchester United's stake sale or takeover, let's call it takeover for simplistic reason, how that works out. Manchester City's 115 charges leveled by Premier League, how those work out, and how that how those things work. So let's see how those things work. Chelsea, how the squad gels. Liverpool, Aston Villa, can they continue their good form? Ange Postecoglou and Ange Ball, whatever it brings. Can Newcastle overcome injuries? So there's still a lot to be, to look at, and of course we will look at those. And the next round of Premier League matches isn't far away. Let's see what happens in that. Will the promoted clubs do anything? Who goes down? Who's most at danger? Crystal Palace, Brentford, they're losing form, players, momentum. Ivan Tony is back after suspension in about 2.5 weeks. So let's see what happens. So thank you for watching, and please do click subscribe. It's free, it doesn't cost anything. Do click like and share, and yeah, I'll see you in my next few videos. If I don't, then I'll wish you a happy new year 2024 in advance. And if not, we'll see each other. We'll see each other in the next few videos. Let's see what happens. So once again, an earnest request: do click subscribe. It's free. It doesn't cost anything, and it just helps me. So thank you. Take care and happy new year.